she was very involved in this Epstein relationship.
It turns out that Melania Trump isn't exactly innocent in this whole disgusting scandal. Despite doing her best to distance herself from her husband in literally everything she does, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, it appears she was right by his side the entire time. Something that the internet is not going to let Melania forget, even as she refuses to join Trump on his trips overseas and desperately attempts to paint herself as the champion of children. Michael Wolff, who has made a career of knowing what the Trumps are up to, sat down with the Daily Beast and pointed out how Melania isn't exactly innocent in all of this.
And the other thing that you really notice by her absence is that of Melania, that often men caught up in situations like this have a wife who's loyally standing by their side.
Well,
Melania is nowhere to be seen. Ivanka is nowhere to be seen. This must be a horrifying story for them.
Okay, well, two points. She never is by his side. All of those courtroom appearances, did she show up once? I report in my book that one of the aides approached her and she said, "Nice try," and then laughed. But this is probably for further food. She was very involved in this Epstein relationship. I mean, there is this model thing, but and Epstein talks about, and she's introduced by a model agent, both of whom Trump and Epstein are involved with. She's introduced to Trump that way. Epstein knows her well. Epstein says the first time Donald Trump and Melania have sex is on his airplane. So this is another complicated dimension in this. Where does she fit into the Epstein story? Where does she fit into this whole culture of models of indeterminate age?
Now, the White House is already jumping in to defend Melania here. Here's the quote from the rarely seen White House Communications Director Stephen Chung, who said that Wolff is a fraud, calling Wolff a lying sack and a fraud. He said he routinely fabricates stories originating from his sick and warped imagination, only possible because he has a severe and debilitating case of Trump derangement syndrome that has rotted his peanut-sized brain. You can see why this guy isn't exactly pushed out into the limelight. He's not good at communicating despite being the communications director. Because making a statement like this kind of just makes it seem like Michael Wolff is exactly correct. We all know, especially from the South Park episode that we saw last week, that Donald Trump loves to sue, especially for defamation, as he seeks millions of dollars from CBS and ABC and Harvard. Yet he has never sued Michael Wolff for the multiple books he's written about Trump. Likely because if he does, discovery is going to be one hell of an event. And it's a well-known fact that Melania and Trump socialized with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, though they even possibly met through Jeffrey Epstein. This is again according to Michael Wolff's bombshell interview with Jeffrey Epstein a few years ago, in which Epstein said he was Trump's best friend for 10 years and that Trump and Melania were first intimate with each other on Epstein's plane, a plane with a name that I can't even say without YouTube cracking down on me. Melania, for her part, is trying to pretend like none of this is happening. She just randomly decided that now would be a good time to post some screenshots from her obviously ghost-written book. Given her grasp on the English language, I'd be surprised if she could even read a book, let alone write one. And the section she decided to preview is her allegedly meeting Donald Trump for the first time. She claims that she met Trump at the Kit Kat Club during Fashion Week in Paris, in which he introduced himself while on a date with somebody else. Classic Trump. Even if it's true, this doesn't make him look like a good guy necessarily. Funny how there's no mention of Jeffrey Epstein in here, though, either because he truly wasn't involved at all, or more likely, she's trying to deny the accusations that he was the one that introduced them without directly addressing Epstein. Because if she did, she'd have to answer for the fact that she was working for the modeling agency that is now known to have trafficked women to Jeffrey Epstein. She was dating Donald Trump around the time he was most involved with Jeffrey Epstein. There are multiple pictures of Melania and Trump partying with, say it with me, Jeffrey Epstein. And the ultimate irony is, here she is trying to paint herself as some sort of champion for the underprivileged children of America, as if those aren't the exact same people that she saw her husband abusing. She tweeted, "America's foster youth received a $30 million housing commitment in yesterday's fiscal year 2026 THUD appropriations bill." I mean, imagine bragging about $30 million being allocated towards helping homeless children, which to me is so tasteless given the allegations. And I'm not the only one. She got absolutely roasted for this. Predator and the hoe. Be best if you were both in jail. That's a sentiment that I can agree with. This user says, "No one believes anything you say. You're married to a predator, too." This user said, "You can't be best given you knowingly married a rapist and a PDF file you knew. Her husband is protecting men who R-word children. She sides with him. She is complicit." I mean, not only is she a PDF file protector, it's insanely hilarious that she thinks $30 million is an adequate amount to address the housing insecurity that hundreds of thousands of children face in this country. Meanwhile, her husband is spending hundreds of millions of dollars golfing, including at his own courses in Scotland right now, a trip she, of course, did not join him on, because we have to remind ourselves that Melania and Trump are essentially estranged. They do not live together, they don't hang out, they sure as hell aren't going to travel the world in order to stay together as a couple. The sex worker turned first lady can't be bothered to pretend to love the man she married, who she likely knew was often cheating on her with adults and committing unthinkable acts against our most innocent citizens. It's sick, it's twisted, and neither Melania or Ghislaine Maxwell, of all people, deserves a modicum of sympathy or grace for their involvement in these crimes, even if it was for Melania turning a blind eye. If we truly lived in a just society, they would both be behind bars, or hanging from them like their good friend Jeffrey. I mean, excuse my vitriol here, but I have nothing but disgust for anyone within a meter of these monsters. And I'm so glad that we're not just moving on from this Epstein story the way that the rich and powerful want us to, because we have to remember that this is a case of the wealthy elite preying on the children of the working class, and that sickness runs very, very deep. If you guys want to stay up to date on this case and everything else that MAGA doesn't want you to know, well then you know where to find it, right here at Really American. I'm Tony Hinderman, happy to be back from vacation, and I'll see you next time.